what would you do if you knew that succeeding at the next level could bring more belonging? What's the next thing you would really go for if you thought that next thing would actually bring you greater connection with your family, your friends, your loved ones? Like, what are the dreams that you have that will actually bring you closer to people? Maybe those are some things to focus on again, versus the dreams that you have that you're scared of because it might push people away. Because we're always doing those two actions, right? We're running away for something, we're running towards it. I'm like, run towards acceptance versus running away from rejection. Hey everybody, it's Brendon Burchard and welcome to your success training, growth training, doing everything I can to help you hit high performance in everything that you do. And we have a very big conversation for you about getting yourself, your family, your team into the high performance conversation so that you can have that personal development conversation with the people that you love and you can enroll them into living a better life with you. And we're also going to cover some of the big questions you guys have had with us over the last couple of months. You know, number one, how to deal with different types of fear. So today I'm going to share with you the 4 types of fear and what to do about them. And inevitably, look, I know that you're here, so you're super driven on personal development and motivation just like I am. And I also know that I struggle with each of these. So I know no matter how high performing and amazing you are, you probably struggle with these too. So this is going to be a really great session for you to bust out your journal, to really think about your career and your health and your family at this time of your life, because everyone struggles with these things. And if we can unlock these things for you, then as you power into these next couple of months, you'll be starting off on the right foot. I'm excited to share with you these conversations. I want to start just by congratulating you all for being here. Taking time out of your days for personal development, that's the secret. That's the secret. So I want to congratulate you, virtual high five, everybody. Now, if you haven't been with us here before, there's nothing for sale here. I just have time with you to train you, to use this moment as maybe a re-up. You know, in high performance training, we call it leveling up. That, maybe your week or your month has been pretty good. Now this, I hope, is like a fire starter conversation for you to say, okay, let's go to the next level. I'm ready. I'm fired up. But to do that, we're going to have to deal with some fears. Today, I'll share with you a question we get asked all the time. Brendon, how do you coach celebrities? So frankly, I don't coach celebrities entirely different than everybody else, but I look for unique and specific things with them related to these fears and this performance conversation I'll teach you guys. Let's have this conversation. So I hope that you have a little bit of that spirit right now too. And refocusing on what do you really want now? And have you started thinking about that yet? And I always tell people, at this time of year, don't crash and burn. Meaning just go, well, heads down, I'll get through another week, I'll get through another week. Lift your head up this time of year, look around, see who in your family has been neglected this year. See what major projects you've neglected this year. See what really needs to be handled, apologized for, gotten done by the end of this year. You got time, my friend. You got a lot of time still. So really jump into finishing this year with excellence. I think too many people crash and burn, and it's a hot mess. They don't serve as their highest level. They don't feel energized or satisfied or enthusiastic for the day. And then what happens? Well, now they get grumpy. And now you got that grumpy bear running around the house, and they're really grumpy because they're not taking care of themselves and they're not getting progress. And so not taking care of yourselves, not getting progress, grumpy bear, start ruining some relationships. Ruined relationships lead to more grumpy bears. And I think a lot of it happens due from a very simple thing. And this is one of the most important things. If you really want to start a performance conversation in your team, you want to start that higher level of achievement for yourself, you want to go to another level, you have to raise your intention for completing things well. Right? Does it make sense? Think about your next marketing promotion or that next big presentation you're going to have. The higher intention you have about delivering that with excellence, the more likely it is you'll be a high performer. It's like you got that paper due, get really intentional. Like, I'm a person who's going to write this paper with great excellence, great care. I care about the outcome being good. What we found in one of the world's largest studies of high performers ever done, which many of you guys know are part of our book, High Performance Habits. But what did we learn in that study? We learned that one of the number one reasons people reach high performance in their life is they raise the necessity that in their mind, what we call psychological necessity or sometimes performance necessity. They make it necessary for themselves to do well in the upcoming situations. Like they mentally prepare or physically prepare, but they take the identity, their body, their mind, their heart, their soul, and their spirit, and they say, I am somebody who's going to do well here. It's just who I am. I'm going to do well in this situation. I'm going to complete this with the best excellence I can. Notice the word is complete. So perfectionists out there, please remember the root word of perfectionism is to perfect, and you cannot perfect something unless you complete it first. You have to finish it or release it or complete it, then keep tinkering to perfect it, to get it better and better and better. But you got to get it done. So for those who've been waiting to do something because you're like, well, Brendon, I'll do that when I have time because I'm a perfectionist. My friend, you got time, but not that much. So as you're watching me, if I can motivate anything before we cover the reasons that maybe you get stuck, I want you to raise that necessity, raise that intention that says, I am going to finish strong. Whatever that means for you. If that means, just winning a few more days, winning a few more moments, winning a few more mornings, just knocking off those 4 or 5 major projects, whatever it is for you, just if I gave you any gift today, my friend, if you get one thing from me today, it is raise that necessity to complete the year well. When you focus, you'll enter happier. You'll enter more grounded. And I don't know about you, but when I'm happier and I'm more grounded and satisfied, I set bigger dreams. I believe that more is possible for me. I enjoy that process of envisioning the year. But if I crash and burn at the end of the year, I'm like, oh God, I hope this year I catch up. Oh, starting the new becomes about buttoning old things up versus starting a new level. So my friend, finish strong. If you'll do that, just a free spirit, free with more bandwidth, free to do the things you really want, and most importantly, free to dream and free to be disciplined at making things happen. So button it up, my friend. Let me share with you maybe why that will be difficult for some people, and let me share with you maybe why some people might have wanted for themselves at a personal and professional level. And it ultimately comes back to those challenges we have in making a great year, almost always come back to these 4 fears. Now, if you've heard me talk about fears before, I usually say that there's, sort of 3 types of fear. And those types of fear are usually oriented towards like loss. Like I'm scared I'm going to lose, my identity, or I'm scared I'm going to lose my job, or I'm going to lose money, or I'm going to lose something. I also talk about the way that we think about fear. We're also scared of the hardship pains. It's like, oh, it's going to be difficult or hard, or I won't know how to do it, or I'll look stupid, or the outcome pains. And the outcome pains are, well, if I do all that and it doesn't turn out well then, what's that say about me? Or, gosh, why would I have wasted all that time? So usually when I think about fear, I kind of think about it in, I guess, sort of 3 time periods. Like before I do the thing, I'm scared if I do that thing, I'm going to lose what I currently have. And then I think about, well, in the process of it, I'm scared I'm going to have some pain. It's going to be hardship. And I'm scared after I do it, it won't turn out well. And I think that's where our minds usually are when we are consciously contemplating fear, right? If we sit down and we think about, okay, I'm going to do this thing, and we're very conscious or aware, we sense that, oh, maybe I'll lose this, maybe that'll be hard, maybe it won't turn out well. But that's really the rationalized fears. I think there are also very impulsive fears that we have that often maybe underlie beneath the surface. We're not aware of those ones, and those ones are also very, very, very powerful in shaping what we do and we do not do. And that's what these four are. They're a different type of fear. These are kind of like under the radar. We know that they're there, but we usually don't rationalize them, right? So let me give you an example. If you go to start a new job, right, or start a new career, or start a new project or a new mission, if you rationalize it, you say, well, I'm scared to start this new job because, that would mean I'm going to lose this job, and I like some of my clients here, or I like my, benefit package here, or I like the security. I'm scared I'm going to lose my security, or something that I like. And then you can rationalize, well, and then, to go get a new job or start this new thing, I'm going to have to start my business, or I'm going to have to, put my interviews or put my applications out, do all these interviews. It's going to be a pain in the butt. I might not do good, hardship. And if I do get a new job, or I do get a new career or start a business, maybe it doesn't earn me as much as this one. Those are rational. Those are easy to understand. I love those ones because I can decode those ones. People can talk about them openly. They usually know what they are. But very few people would point to these things and readily acknowledge or see that these are the ones holding them back. Now, when I go through them, some of them you go, yep, that's one. I can understand that in part of my life. But many of them, I just want to preface all this with, many of these you're going to be resistant to. You're going to say, oh no, that's not me, Brendon. I'm so conscious. You don't, no, Brendon, I dealt with that years ago. Everything's great. And yet I worked with some of the most influential people in the world who are confident, who do contribute, who do inspire or reach millions of people. And they still struggle with these when we get to the root of it all. They might not use these words, but these fears are present. So let's work through them, okay? The first of the four fears is the first one you'll recognize. You go, yep, that's one. And I want to, before I reveal it, I want you to think about, have you come as far as you wanted? Like, have you made as many client calls, made as much business? Have you been as great of a mom or a dad? Have you got progress? Have you really got a lot of momentum? As much as you really wanted? Okay. If not, let's see if this one, behind door one, is your enemy. Because maybe it's door 2, maybe it's door 3, maybe it's door 4, or maybe it's all of them. I know you're like, Brendon, get to the point, pull the tab, tell me what it is, stop all the warm up, and just reveal. The first one, which is the fear of rejection. As a social species, acceptance, validation, belonging is so built into our DNA. Like, it's just it's like so important to us that doing anything that would risk us looking like a fool, that would make your family make fun of you, that would make somebody stop loving you or caring for you as much, or doing something where you would truly feel like you are now ostracized by people that you care about or care for, it's terrifying for people. It's funny though, when I sit down with a 40-year-old and we're talking about their life and they're secure at home and they're secure at work and things are going good, so life is good, but they're trying to reach that next level. Sometimes we have to really ask, am I fearing rejection? Is that why I'm not at the next level? Now again, most people wouldn't point to that. They wouldn't be like, well, yes, I fear rejection. Even though they know it's a human story, they're like, well, lots of people fear rejection, but they'll say, well, not me. And I'll say, here's the simple tell. Here's how we know. Did you take as much risks as you should have? That's it. If you didn't take the risks in 2017 that would have brought you advancement, then please don't tell me that fear is not an issue in your life. And please don't tell me rejection's not. Because you were scared doing that thing, and this might not have been fully conscious. You were scared doing that fully thing, jumping into that goal, that dream. Somebody might say something to you. They might hate on you on the internet. Your neighbors might look at you funny, if they don't already. You might have had somebody around kind of like you just knew their negativity would increase the more risk that you took, even though you knew those risks were really the next right actions of integrity for you, right? That's what I'm always telling people. It's like, when you're stuck and you don't know what to do, I always say, just take the next right action of integrity for you, whatever that is. Speak up for yourself, take that step, move towards that dream, whatever you got to do, take that next right action of integrity. Well, for a lot of people, that's scary when the spouse isn't going to be supportive, when the boss is going to say no, when the business is secure, but now you're going to try something new that might risk your ROI or your cash flow. It's scary. It's scary. And what we all want so much is to be loved and validated and accepted and belong. And most people don't look at this one. So let's flip it on its head a little bit. Let's flip it on its head. Because we know it's a powerful driver for people, even if they're not fully aware of how much they really are doing. When people read my book, The Motivational Manifesto, they're always like, man, I didn't realize how much I was doing to please other people. Because those who, you might say, well, rejection is not an issue. And I'll go, well, are you a pleaser? Are you a people pleaser? Are you someone who makes a lot of compromises in your life to help other people because you just feel like you need to do that? And they go, yeah. I said, do you ever please other people to the detriment of yourself? They go, yeah. I go, well, then you have rejection issues. If you can't say no, you have rejection issues. If you can't take risks, you have rejection issues. If you're trying to please everybody all the time at the cost of your own health, wealth, joy, confidence in life, you have rejection issues. And that's okay. I know you're like, dang, Brendon, don't tell me I have rejection issues. I have experienced life. But I'm telling you, I don't know anybody who doesn't have somewhere. Like, if you're really going to go to a new level, I mean, just think about this. Did you call enough clients this year? Did you outbound? Did you email enough? Did you do enough social media? And for a lot of people say, well, Brendon, I didn't have the time. And we dig deep. It wasn't time, because they had time for 4 hours of television that week. They were scared. Putting themselves out there might draw a specific kind of attention. That's a rejection issue. They were scared to say, no, I'm not going to do these things over here anymore, guys, because I want to do these things over here. And if they didn't make that leap, they had rejection issues. And I'm just trying to reframe it for you people, because often we say, well, I got rid of rejection concerns in high school or college. I'm like, if you're still trying to please, and you're still not making the leaps, and you're still not standing up for yourselves, and you're still not putting yourself out there fully expressed yet, then let's dig deep and understand that might be a thing. And so I just say, hey, look, going in the next couple of months, first and foremost, just be more aware. Awareness is always the first gate to change. And so, okay, I understand. Maybe I am concerned about what other people think, and that's preventing me from living my life. And so what to do? A couple simple recommendations. Number one, make sure you read at some point of your life the Motivation Manifesto. It will put fire in you to stop being a people pleaser, and it will put you back onto marching the right path for yourself. And it will do it with some language that will absolutely put some fire under your belly. Second, though, let's flip the script a little bit here. If we know that human belonging, acceptance, and love is so important to us, but right now we are focused on a rejection or a concern what they might think if I say yes or no or don't do my thing, then maybe we can flip it and say, oh, well, what would I have to do to gain the next level of love, connection, belonging, or validation in this group of people who I want to serve, who I want to care for, who I want to contribute to? So let me give you like a tangible example, okay? For me, I think a part of my early career, when I was first starting public speaking, I really didn't want to share too much about my own internal world or my own sort of life experiences, because I just wanted to teach. I just wanted to say, here's the concept, go. Apply it to your life, here's the questions, go. I was more like the tools-based or implementation type trainer, right? Very tactical, and yeah, some transformational. But I wasn't really like owning it myself, because I just thought, well, I really don't want to put myself out there in that way, because I don't want all the attention back. The truth was that was a fear of rejection. If I'm honest, I could see that about myself. And yeah, I was starting to become successful, but lots of us are successful and we still have that fear, right? So to get over it, what did? I didn't have to go some deep regressive work into my childhood to understand rejection. No, because rejection is always, no one ever rids themselves of this completely. And if anyone ever said that they did, I just have to suggest that maybe they're living too comfortable of a life and not contributing to the level they really could. Because when you're really giving, serving, and there's no way that at some point the human impulse for acceptance won't like snap in your head. It's always going to snap, okay? So when it snaps and you feel it, turn it around and say, okay, what would I have to do to get the next level of belonging or acceptance or love here? Because you know what that does? It makes you more proactive. It says, you know what, I'm scared of, I have some concerns of rejection, so I'm going to make it even more important to me to be present with those who I love, to connect with them. I'm worried they're going to reject me or make fun of me based on appearances, so you know, I better really show up and demonstrate who I am so they're less likely to reject me because I'm showing my full truth. Maybe I'm worried what they're going to think on me, you know, in the YouTube community. So, okay, how would I deliver with such excellence that more people would like me, would share me, would accept, right? Remember that first question? Going back to, I am a person of excellence, so how can I serve here in a better way? That's what I'm suggesting to you. Instead of like feeling like the fear and the rejection is some weird thing, no, everyone has it. So now flip it and say, what would I have to do to demonstrate even more of me in a way that I would connect better? Right? That's why you go read books like, you know, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? That's why you get interested in putting yourself out there and being vulnerable and being real so that you can have more of what you really want, belonging. People go, well, I don't want to be vulnerable because I'll be rejected. I'm like, yeah, but if you're never vulnerable, you'll never have belonging. Double-sided coin, buddy. Are you going to live on this side of the coin where I'm scared, don't want to be rejected, so I'm not going to be vulnerable? Or do you want to live on this side of the coin? I'm being vulnerable, so I'm getting more belonging. You see? That's what I'm saying. Flip it. Flip it. Do the actions that bring more connection in your life versus don't do the actions to avoid the pain of rejection. If that's an aha moment for you, write it down in your journals. Capture this today. But please, get this one. Get this. What would you do if you knew that succeeding at the next level could bring more belonging? What's the next thing you would really go for if you thought that next thing would actually bring you greater connection with your family, your friends, your loved ones? Like, what are the dreams that you have that will actually bring you closer to people? Maybe those are some things to focus on again versus the dreams that you have that you're scared of because it might push people away. Because we're always doing those two actions, right? We're running away for something, we're running towards it. I'm like, run towards acceptance versus running away from rejection. It's a much better pull in life, and connection is one of the 10 human drives. If you read another one of my books, The Charge, right? The 10 human drives. Connection. It's everything to us. Okay, second big point up here. Oh my gosh, this is a big one. If you didn't take that big risk this year, I bet this one was rubbing on your brains. And you're like, why didn't I do that thing? It's because we fear ruin. We think if I do that, I will be ruined. I will go bankrupt. She will break up with me. Our relationship will never recover. These things, like, we catastrophize. That's where real fear comes from, is when we are taking a fear and we are catastrophizing. We are making it so big and so broad and so detrimental that we're like, that thing would, you know, that'll kill me, we say. Right? Oh, if she left me, that'd kill me. Or, oh my gosh, if I did that thing and we failed at it, we'd be ruined forever. You've heard yourself say this nonsense. Ruin, the fear of complete and utter irreversibility of a negative consequence. That's what it is. It's that fear of just complete irreversibility of a negative consequence. And here's the thing. If you've ever found yourself like, I'm not going to do that because that could ruin us, you're in a ruin mindset versus a learning mindset. I tell people all the time who say, well, Brendon, you don't understand. I'm not scared of ruin. I'm just scared of being disappointed. And I said, no, you're just not into learning yet. You're not scared of disappointment. You're just not into learning yet. Because when you are into learning, now disappointment and ruin aren't even on the table anymore. Because everything is a test. Everything is a data point. Everything is something to learn from. And everything is a jumping off point, not a cliff. And once you get that, it's like, oh. So what big thing did you not do and thought it would be ruinous? And I know a lot of people in the industry of entrepreneurialism or small business owners or people who want to be in that. And they say, well, Brendon, I'm scared to start my own business because, what do they say? I'll go broke. I'll face financial ruin. And I'm always like, you know what? No one ever hits financial ruin. They really don't. There is no financial can't come back from place because every person can make a new dollar, right? And that new dollar that's one peg up and another new dollar, another new dollar. And I speak to this not flippantly to you. I went bankrupt in my life, really. I mean, full-on bankruptcy in the early part of my life. When I first started my first business and I was trying to do teaching and training and online training and workshops, I didn't know what I was doing. Totally went bankrupt. And I never thought, this is forever. Oh my God. I was like, you know what? This sucks. Not what I want. So what's the next right action of integrity? Why is it important that I still show up and deliver with excellence? What will I do today? If there is tomorrow, there is no ruin. If there is tomorrow, there is no ruin. So what do? As soon as you start feeling yourself catastrophizing, remember to ask yourself better questions and say, okay, not what I wanted, so what should I do today? Not what I wanted, what am I going to do tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening to start moving it forward, to making that next dollar or that next right action of integrity, to make that next call, that next email. There's always a next, right? Always a next. It's one of the great 4-letter words of all time. Next, right? So ruin shouldn't be stopping you. Fear of ruin, you just have to know where that is because what you're doing is you're catastrophizing. And this is really important. If you don't feel like you made big leaps this year, you were scared. You were like, I'm going to jump off this cliff and take this action and I'm going to fall to my death. Ruin, death, destruction. Instead of saying, I'm going to jump off this cliff and I'm going to fly, baby. I don't know how, and I might fall for a little bit, but I'm going to flap those wings and at some point I'm going to catch that wind and here we go. Your expectancy was in the gutter versus in the air. You were looking down versus looking up. You were feeling down versus animating yourself so you felt better and that you moved further. So my friends, be wary of the ruinous thoughts, those global, catastrophizing, dead, negative, forever things that you have. As soon as you hear it, you got to flip it. As soon as you hear it, you got to flip it. Now, we're only halfway through of this particular topic, but here's what I want to share with you. This might be a really good thing for you to add to your weekly reviews. Like a lot of people, when they do weekly reviews in high performance, they're only focused on what did I achieve this week, what things did I get done, what do I still have to do, what moments do I feel grateful for, and I'm like, that's good. But also along with focusing on what moments I feel grateful for and having a gratitude journal, maybe in part of your gratitude journal you add a fear journal. And you go, what was I scared of this week? And how can I release that so I enter next week a more confident, bold, thoughtful person who's not catastrophizing, who is optimistic? Because we know in every area, one of the most dominant, powerful human traits related to long-term success in almost every positive psychological outcome, from health to happiness to positive marriages to better behaviors that support you, is this human trait of optimism. Like having an optimistic outlook. Well, if you're always stuck in fear, how optimistic are you going to be? Like, the most fearful people I know are also tend to be extreme pessimists, who they just look at everything as dark. And that's because they've never challenged themselves to see the other side. They spent so much mental energy on the darkness that they forgot that, the shadow in the room can only exist because the room is illuminated. So they focus on the shadow in the corner and miss that the whole room was lit up. And that's what we have to remember, to focus on those positive things and to address where we might be catastrophizing, fearful, pessimistic, dark. And so that's why I say put on your weekly review. I know that doesn't sound incredibly motivating. You mean every week, Brendon, look at the things I might be fearful? I'm like, yeah, that's called self-awareness. Like, if I don't know why I'm not taking actions, well, then clearly I'm not measuring each week what's preventing me from taking those actions. But as soon as I'm very clear about what's preventing me from taking those actions, then next week I'm much more likely to take better actions. I know that sounds so basic, but let's test. Do you have a weekly review? That every week you review parts of your life and what's important to you. If you don't, please don't tell me you're really a high performer, because it's impossible to be leveling up consistently. Remember, high performance is consistent and sustained success over the long term. And you can't sustain it unless, at least it's growing a little bit as you're growing. So make sure that you have that weekly review, test your fears, test your assumptions, ask what held you back this week, and deal with that. And people are like, well, I don't know how to deal with it. I'm like, you don't have to deal with it completely, just acknowledge it, see it. Sometimes acknowledging and seeing something over and over and over and over again is the way to decouple from the fear, right? It's that old thing in helping people overcome phobias. You slowly introduce them to more of that phobia. They see it more, they interact with it more, and they realize it's not so scary. Public speaking, so terrified. Well, if I put you on stage 50 times, the 51st time, you're less scared, right? Exposure therapy, they often call it. Well, I just want you to expose yourself to your fears more every single week by asking, what held me back? And as you see those, you go, oh, that's what's holding me back. And now week after week after week after week after week, 52 weeks of that, you start seeing that list dwindle because you're familiar with it. And like, oh, not such a big thing. Oh, I was fearful this bad thing was going to happen. On Wednesday I was terrified that meeting was going to go bad, and somehow Friday you still had a job. Congratulations on your weekly review. You go, what a dumb fear that was. I totally survived. And now that next meeting, next Wednesday, it ain't scary no more. You got it? You need the weekly review. Third big idea in overcoming our fears is that fear of regret. Fear of regret is such a sort of, I would say, it's like a stake in the ground that you're tied to. When you just, you want to go beyond a boundary, but this fear of regret stops you. Because you don't want to regret taking an action, because if you took an action and you were rejected and you were ruinous and then you felt like, I knew I shouldn't have done that, well, how doubly, doesn't this make everything else worse? Right? If you fear these things and they happen, now you regret the action, is 10 times worse. But that's what we keep doing. We 10 times our fears by going, well, if I do it, I'll regret it. And so we got to, just like other things, we have to flip this a little bit, and we have to go, oh, okay, well, what if I do positive things so that I don't have negative regrets? Versus saying, well, I don't want to do that because I would experience negative regret. Does that make sense? So what positive things can you do so you don't have regret versus fearing something and stopping so you don't have regret? Meaning, most people use regret the wrong way. They use regret as a reason to not do something. I don't want to do that because I'll regret it. Versus, I'm going to do those things so I don't have regret. Right? Many of you guys know my story from my car accident as a 19-year-old kid. Part of the reason I lived so courageously and boldly and I put myself out there so much all the time is because I don't want to get to the end of my life and say, you know what, I served half-ass because I was scared. I don't want to get to the end of my life and regret going through so many days not present, going through so many days just going through the motions, going through so many days not engaged with my passions, my enthusiasms, my loves, my people. Like, I don't want to be that guy who's rocking on the rocket chair saying, I wish I woulda, shoulda, coulda at the end of my life. So I take positive daily actions to avoid that type of experience. Does it make sense? And then I would also say, same thing with regret and ruin, they're really connected so closely in that we think, well, I don't want to get to the end of my life, wish I woulda, shoulda, coulda, and act like there's still not a tomorrow. The ideal of hope for a better tomorrow is one of the great deconstructors of fear. Because most of our fear is tied to, there's a block there. Like, fear introduces like this black wall in front of us. And we forget on the other side, there's all this open field of freedom. And we just keep thinking, our fear like narrows our view so tightly that we forget that there's tomorrow. So people, their regrets are held so close. Like, I don't want to do that because I'll regret that and it'll be irrecoverable. And I'm just like, well, when you have a learning mindset, there's not much regret. Just like I don't have a lot of disappointment, I also don't have a lot of regret. Because I was like, oh, I did that, didn't work out, darn it, okay, shouldn't have done that, learn, adjust behavior, right? A lot of people who struggle with concerns, and here's a tell, if you're a person who if regret is driving you, if this year you also felt a lot of guilt is a great tell that you have a psychological propensity for the fear of regret. They're like, twins. It's just like people who have lots of fear of regret also tend to have high psychological concern for guilt. Like they're guilty. They feel guilty all the time. I feel guilty, I feel guilty, I feel guilty, I feel guilty. And so guess what? I don't want to do anything else because I'll regret it. Because I already feel bad about myself. So why take an action? I feel so bad about myself, why take an action? And so their regret has become something that has stopped them. Their guilt is something that adds on to that. And now they're immobilized because of high fear of regret and psychological guiltiness. And so what I tell people, I say, look, if you got a lot of guilt, there's the simplest ways out, right? The simplest ways out of guilt. I mean, the path out of guilt starts at the path of forgiveness. For yourself, for other people. And I also tell these people this, we think of forgiveness often as forgiveness of just ourselves, which you should do. I mean, you gotta let it go. You can't advance with all the baggage of self-hate. You gotta let that stuff go. And so what I tell people is, as much as we fear that, I'm going to regret and I have a lot of guilt and they don't let that go and they think forgiveness is just about themselves and others, I also go, you know what? Forgive yesterday. You weren't as wise or intentional or thoughtful as you could be today. And remember, that's the ideal of hope. I go, oh, I don't have to regret yesterday. I don't have to be guilty about yesterday because you know what? I'm better today. I learned from that. I'm telling you, the learning mindset is the great release of fear. Because as soon as you approach it, it's like, I'm going to learn through it and get better. Now the fear doesn't stop you anymore. Because you don't say, well, I'm going to get stuck here, or this will happen forever. The forever goes away when you finally step into the realization that there is hope, there is a tomorrow. And I would say one reason fear doesn't stop me, it becomes such a hopeful dork. I'm just so confident and connected that tomorrow is going to be great. Even if literally tomorrow isn't great, well, I know then the next week will be great. Going to be amazing. And does it mean I've never had bad years? No, I had terrible years. You guys know I had a brain injury in 2011 that made the next 3 years of my life really friggin' hard. But I still went in each of those years, even knowing I was physically compromised with a brain injury, I still went in optimistically. Because what's the alternative? Who wants a bleak outlook? Because you know what I think one side of regret would be? To have lived your whole life with a bleak outlook. Because you'll get to the end and you go, damn it, I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate all those days I had. I didn't appreciate all the second chances I had every time I woke up a new Monday morning. I didn't appreciate it. I missed the whole ride. You know what? I stood in line for the ride of life the whole time. I never got on the ride. I was just a waiter. I was just a watcher. I never really engaged. That's real regret. And I can share with that because I've been there in hospices with people in the last weeks, hours, minutes of their life. And if there is regret, it's usually a lack of full engagement with life. I didn't really show up. I didn't appreciate what I had. So if you got a lot of regret, you got to learn to forgive the guilt, forgive the bad days, and start appreciating today again. Because you know what? When you fall in love with the moment, when you fall in love with this opportunity you have, when you really appreciate the now, then there's not a lot of room for fear in that, right? In that deep feeling of appreciation, it's hard for fear to edge itself in. So let go of the regret, concerns, my friend. There's a tomorrow, and it's going to be amazing. Last piece, number 4. This is what we really fear. Responsibility. We fear that we are actually very responsible for our lives. It's like that great Marianne Williamson quote you've ever heard, right? The thing we fear so much, she was basically saying, I don't remember the exact quote, but she was basically that, we're not so much afraid that we're inadequate. We're actually fearful of our full power. Because what would that really bring out in us? What would that say if we were fully responsible for the outcomes in our life? What would it say if we had more power than we were actualizing in life? That's scary. People are scared of responsibility. And in very tactical ways. Like if I said to you, hey, I'm going to make you responsible for, let's say you own a small business. And I say, I'm going to make you responsible for 50 more employees and all of their mortgages. A lot of people go, oh my God, right? Total terror to be responsible for other people's lives, right? Or other people's mortgages or other people's whatevers. And so responsibility is scary to people, right? Think about how many, and forgive this if this was an experience in your life or you did it, but I think it is a powerful metaphor and I think it's true. Think about how many deadbeat dads bailed on their families because they were scared of the responsibility of providing love, connection, support, finances. So they bailed. I think that's one of the true fears of life, right? I mean, if you're a parent or you've ever experienced having some child or you had to be a caregiver and you love somebody so much, that responsibility of taking care of other people is scary to them. It's easier to walk. It really is. But I also think so many people, they chose that easier path away from responsibility, and at the end of their life, they have a lot of this because they realized they were cowards. Not a nice thing to say, but this is what they say. They realized they lived a cowardly life because they never took real responsibility for their days, for their jobs, for their careers, for their health, for the love of the family. And by the way, this is not me judging. This is what people say at the end of their lives. Like when someone's at the end of their life and they feel ultimate regret, it's always because they didn't appreciate or have reverence for life. They didn't connect with other people, and they sensed they were cowardly in some way. They didn't assume that personal power that comes with responsibility. And this is not some perspective of mine. I mean, look at any great personal development teacher. At the base of everything they teach is personal responsibility, or what used to be called self-reliance. That sense of personal power that says, I am in command of my life. Doesn't mean you're in command of everything that happens to you in life, but you are in command of your responses. And what we are scared of is that we won't show up as our best self to deal with those demands. Right? We're scared of taking full responsibility for everything, because what would that say about our lives? But I take full responsibility for everything in my life. It doesn't mean I believe I caused everything. Does that make sense? So law of attraction, people calm down. 1 second. Take a breather. I'm not saying you attracted cancer, babe. I'm not saying you attracted that mean person. I'm not saying you attracted the bankruptcy, right? A lot of that bad teaching early on in the days of the new law of attraction, was just misguided, because there's lots of things that happen to us that are cosmic, chaotic, weird things that we can't explain or will never be able to understand. It's things that we didn't attract, we didn't want to happen. They happen, and it wasn't because you had bad character or you were a negative person or you'd done something bad. Look, bad things happen to good people. If you haven't read it, it's a great book, How Good People Deal with Bad Things. But I would also share with you that ultimately we are responsible for our responses. We are responsible for the people who we become. Maybe you didn't ask for that cancer. You are responsible for how you are going to deal with that. And for those who go, well, that's too flippant to say, I'm like, I just remind you, go back and read some Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. He said it best. He said, the last of the human freedoms is the ability to choose one's own attitude. They can take away everything else, but they can't take away how you respond in mind. And when you know that, that gives you great power and responsibility in life. And so when you feel like a victim, this is one of your great fears. You might not call it that. You might not recognize it. And I just go, oh, you're scared of responsibility. I say this to people all the time who say, Brendon, I have a big dream. I go, have you told your family, your friends, the people around you what your big dream is? Well, no. I said, well, you're dealing with this, and you're dealing with this. You're scared that by putting it out there, you won't be able to handle the pressure. You won't be able to handle the demands. That's fear of responsibility. I'm fearful that I won't be able to be able to deal with the stuff. And I'm just like, there's a tomorrow. You can learn. Like, I have extreme personal power because I have hope. I have extreme personal power because I have optimism for tomorrow. I have extreme personal power because I look at the areas of my life on a weekly basis and I say, where have I been stuck? Where am I fearful? What can I do this next week as the next right action of integrity? Everything we've talked about, because here, you flip all of these. Watch what happens in your life, right? You flip rejection to doing the things that will bring greater connection in your life. Watch the quality of your life go up. You stop worrying about what will be ruined, and you start remembering that there's always a tomorrow, and you have hope and optimism, and you just always ask, okay, there's not ruin, what's my next right action of integrity? And you keep moving forward even through the disasters of life. Watch the courage that enters your heart there. Watch the confidence that comes in when you keep moving through the storm. Guess what happens? When regret is free, you let that go. You're gone. You're just not worried about the regret of, if I do this, maybe things will turn out bad. And you said, okay, what would I need to do so I don't experience regret at the end of my life? What positive actions could I take to live a life of my own so I don't have regret? So I'm proud of my life, because pride on the other side of regret feels good. Then responsibility. What would it, instead of saying, well, what if I can't handle it, or what if I'm not responsible? You said, you know what? I'm totally responsible for this. I am able to shape this, guide this, change this, make it better. Now you're really stepping in your personal power. And when you move through these things on just a very tactical weekly basis, you're aware of these fears and you start flipping them. You start flipping them. You start flipping them. You start flipping them. You get in this rhythm, and all of a sudden you say, wow, I feel really courageous in my life. And that's when you start making your greatest contributions. That's when you really start living the life that you deserve. So my friends, these 4 fears, they're all overcomeable. They're all something that you can flip. They're all something you can be aware of. And they're all something that will always come into your life. There's no person who doesn't deal or struggle with some of these at every elevation of their life. And so when you get them, it's your job to be responsible, to recognize them, to accept that they're there, and then ask, what's the next right actions of integrity for me? Do that over and over and over and over again, my friend, and fear will no longer stop you. Can I get an amen on a weekday? I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. I know I've been going on and on. I got to go a little faster. With that, my friends, I got to keep going. I know I promised to talk about some other topics with you. People ask me all the time, Brendon, how do you coach celebrities or A players? I'm going to give you a simple process for that, and then I'll be fairly brief today because I know I went long on the fear conversation, but I think it was important. First and foremost, when I do work with anybody, I'm always listening to what their fears are as well. And if you've studied high performance work with us already, I take them through a process which you guys already recognize as this, so I won't spend too much time with that. If you have not ever joined our high performance master's program, join it. You've gotten emails in the past, I'm sure, or will. Join the master's program when we open that up, because I basically, what I do with celebrities and with our certified high performance coaching clients, I basically walk them through this process of looking at their psychology, their physiology, their productivity, their persuasion or people skills, and their purpose. And I just kind of walk them through that over, for me, when I'm coaching people. High performance coaching is a 12-week process, and I basically take them through something like this. To answer this specific question, if I sit down with a celebrity, I have a unique process that we call certified high performance coaching. But one simple thing I could share with you that really started my career was learning to show them this little diagram I'm going to show you. And this is not the process I'm necessarily taking them through. This, for me, is what I'm listening for as I'm coaching. If that makes sense. High performance coaching is the process, but what I'm often listening to as well is these 4 major areas here. In the middle, I already told with you, clarity is everything. It's just like when I said to someone, well, Brendon, what do you do with overcoming fears? I'm like, get more clear. If you know what you really want, fear will not stop you. If you don't know what you want, fear will always stop you, right? So you got to know, what's the thing worth fighting for? I'm always listening. Do they really know who they are? Do they really know what they want? Do they really know how they want to interact with other people? Do they really know what life's about for them right now? So I'm listening for that level of clarity. Second, then once I know this is the middle of everything, then I'm always listening for confidence. When I'm working with a celebrity, almost always, they demonstrate confidence in the first meeting because they don't want to be vulnerable. So I'm listening for confidence in the second, third, and fourth meeting. And a lot of confidence, there's a tell. I just listen for the dips in tone. They'll say, I really want to do this, but no. And I'll hear that dip in the tone, and I'm like, oh, they lack confidence there. So I'm always listening for confidence, and whenever I hear it dip, I attack. So confidence dips, I jump in with a question. Confidence dips, question. Dip, question. Dip, question. And that's how I've gained such, I think, notoriety working with celebrities, is that, most people will allow their woe is me stories because they're a celebrity. I don't let it happen. Or when they lose confidence, I just notice it. And most celebrities or influencers, they're aware of their own confidence. They have it, but they also recognize when it's gone. So when I call it out as gone, we can work on that and get them back on the path. I also am very attentive to their competence, meaning, do they actually know what to do? Do they have the knowledge, the skill, the ability to actually succeed here? If they don't have the knowledge, skill, and ability to succeed here, then you know what? They could have these 2 things, but they're not going to get ahead. It's just like, you ever met someone who is confident, who's hopeful, who's excited, but they don't get any momentum? Often they don't get momentum because they don't have a method. And when they don't have a method, even if they're smart and hopeful or confident people, it's just they don't know where to go. They don't have strategy, knowledge, skill, ability, strategy. So I'm often being very attentive, and I'm asking a lot of them, like, do you know exactly what to do next? And if you do not know exactly what to do next, it's your job to figure that out. And it is your job not to figure it out in complete and know everything. It's like, what to do next is the next step, the next email, the next call, the next ask, the next thing. Like, go and get in the game. Because a lot of competence is like when you join a company for the first time and they call it on-the-job training. You don't gain more competence without putting yourself out there. So don't think you have to have all the competence before you go. Go and get competent as you're interacting and learning, right? You got to have that learning mindset to get in the game. Next up, commitments. This is a big one, and that's why I brought this one up specifically. I usually don't teach this particular framework out in the general public, but I'm listening all the time for celebrities' commitments. Now, there's 2 connotations here, okay? First commitment is like, literally, what are they committed to doing? Like, where's that hope, that fire, that drive, that actual motivation and commitment to doing something, right? Where are their disciplines? Can I see that, right? That's one type. But the other one is commitments like obligations to do things. And one of the easiest things I can do with an influencer is open up their calendar, see all their meetings, see all their stuff they're doing, and going, this is stupid. Not too long ago, I had a blessing to work with a major celebrity on a trip I was on. And I sat down with this person really brief. They found out I was in town. We had this really quick meeting, not a big deal. We talked maybe 35 minutes. But this person was kind of in a crisis mode. And for 35 minutes we talked, and I probably focused on this one because their crisis was a crisis of exhaustion and a loss of hope. And it was because they were spread too thin. They had all these commitments. This person specifically was doing all these appearances, like commitments, like their agent was booking them to go do all these appearances that didn't move the needle in their career. And they just thought they had to be out there. And they thought, if I'm not out there, I'll be irrelevant. I'm like, but it doesn't mean you have to be out there 24/7. You can have relevancy without piecing yourself out to the world every single second of the day. So for that person, to get them back some just operational hope and energy and motivation was just like, you need to cancel the next 2 weeks of extraneous stuff that doesn't really move the needle. Get rid of it. You guys have probably heard me teach to the general public all the time, right? The main thing is to learn to keep the main thing the main thing. Most people have so many commitments and obligations that don't matter, and they don't realize that they could bring those things together. They don't realize they could say no. They have those fears of rejection or disappointing other people. So they keep carrying on too many obligations that don't matter. Like if you're going to a bunch of meetings that don't matter, stop. But you're like, no, they'll notice and I'm not there. Stop. You're not in high school. You don't have to sit at the same table every day. It's okay to move around now. You graduated. You're an adult now. Cancel the meaningless meetings. You'll be the happiest person ever. Number 4, consistency. Where are they lacking consistency? Because when I can find where they're lacking consistency, I can help them get a bit more edge. Okay? So these are the things I'm listening to, and then I'm just paying attention to something really, really big. What I'm going to do is I'm going to circle this whole thing, and I'm going to look and listen for and watch for this simple thing. Here it is. Community. I want to know, who are they hanging out with? Who's influencing them? Who's not? What's the challenge? Who is like the people who are inspiring them? Who are the people pushing them back? Who are the people who aren't like supporting them? And do they have, 5 great positive friends? Do they have people who are inspiring them? If they don't have an inspiring community, then I'm the first person to say, we got to work on your relationships right now. Right? We got to work on your relationships right now. Okay, so that's this one. I promise to go over that with you as fast as I possibly can. Let me also fulfill another promise, because you guys asked this question too. Brendon, how do I start all these conversations you're talking about with my friends, with my family, with my peers, with the people that I love? Like, how do I do that? I'm going to give you 4 simple things that you can do, my friend, that I know you'll like. And I know I'm going as fast as I can humanly possibly get in, because I'm a little bit over my time, but I thank you guys for being here with us. I appreciate it, so I hope it's okay. I'm a little bit over time today, but I'm trying to get out a lot of training with you here. Okay, number 1, starting the performance conversation. If you don't have a daily intention and you're not sharing that daily intention, how can you possibly have a performance culture or performance conversation? What do I mean by that? Let's talk about your family first. Before everybody leaves the house in the morning, why don't you just say, hey, honey, what do you want to happen today? What do you want to make happen? How do you want to be today? How do you want to treat people today? What do you want to get done today? Like, just have a conversation like, what do you want your day to be about, honey? Ask the kids that. Ask your spouse that. It's by starting conversations of intention in your family and in your team that you start having more performance focus. I share the story all the time. Oprah starts meetings with Oprah. She always starts with, what's our intention here? That puts everybody on point to be purposeful. And if we're not talking about purposes and intention, we can't possibly build a culture of real performance. So knowing what the intention is, at first you do that for yourself. Like, what's my intention at work today? What do I want to make happen today? But also ask the people who, maybe if you are a manager, walk the rounds and say, what are you guys trying to do today? What's up today? What are we focused on today? That what are we focused on? What's important? What do you want to happen? Conversation has to be, listen, daily. It's got to be daily. You cannot possibly lead well your life or other people if you don't know what they're wanting, what they're trying to do. So your job to start a performance-based culture in your family or your team is to start asking on a more consistent basis what people's intentions are. Once you do that, now that conversation is there. Now everyone knows to be intentional. And once they know to be intentional, now the performance starts to improve. Number 2, we talked about this one for you, but also for your team or your family, a weekly review. What does this mean? Hey, on Sunday, when you sit down with your family to have Sunday dinner, go around the table and say, hey, what went well this last week? What did you love this last week? What didn't work well? What are you trying to do this next week? It's about having a review. Like in companies, you know how important this is because that's why you have your team send status reports maybe on Fridays, right? It's just like having people think about how the week went is really important. But most people only do a review once a year. You have to have some kind of built-in feedback mechanism where you, your team, or others are reviewing numbers, are reviewing their behavior, are reviewing their passion, are reviewing how they're doing. It can be informal, but listen. I don't care so much is it informal or formal. What I care about is it consistent? Performance conversations need to be consistent conversations. And the more you consistently have those conversations, the more it becomes part of the culture. So if you never ask your wife how her day was, how are you ever going to be knowing whether or not you're growing as a couple? You have to have the conversations. And I say just structure it, have it weekly, right? Maybe it's a Sunday sit down with your family and talking about what went well this last week, guys? What do you want to happen this week? What did we learn? That's a conversation in performance. See, most people think performance is, did you hit the number? Did you achieve the goal? Did we make the data? Did the conversions happen? No. Most performance conversations are conversations of, what did we learn this week? Learning is directly tied to performance. And you can't increase performance unless you increase learning. So the conversation, you don't even have to say performance. Did you meet your performance demands? How are those key quality indicators going? That's fine. I don't mean to be making fun of all of corporate America. But I also think that it's important to say the real conversations are, what did you learn? How can we get better? And that's my test for you. How often do you ask your family or team, what are we learning? How do we get better? What are we learning? How do we get better? So don't make performance conversations so mechanical or corporate or cold. What did we learn? How do we get better? What did we learn? How do we get better? Week after week after week after week after week of asking those questions, suddenly you start to see the team starts to perform better. They get a learning mindset. They get a learning mindset. They take better risks. They take better risks. They get better results. They start to grow. A momentum gains. What do we learn? How do we get better? Number 3, passion walks. And this is not like passion walk biblical, so calm yourselves down. A passion walk, what I mean by that is go grab a key employee, or go grab your spouse, or go grab one of the kids, or go grab somebody on your team, and go for a walk with them and ask the simple question, what are you doing that you really love? Is there any way we can do to help you do more of that? And that's it. And I really mean walk. I'm sure you've had, do you remember a girlfriend or a boyfriend that you had one time, and you guys had these amazing conversations on walks, and it brought you so close together? Sometimes the camaraderie that happens when you just go for a stroll with somebody is really amazing. I think about how much I've gotten better in my career because my wife and I take walks all the time. My walks with my wife have directly made me a better man, a better teacher, a better trainer. Because just talking through with her the day, she'll say something, I'm like, oh yeah. Just talking through what I want to happen, she'll make a suggestion. I'll go, oh yeah. And that's really empowering to me. It changes me in significant ways. It makes me better as a performer. And last piece up here, skill development. You should know every area that you need to get better at in your life, but you should also be asking your team, what do you guys need to learn? What do you need to get better at? What tools do you need? What competency do you need? Oh, that's my phone. That's my thing saying, Brendon, shut up. I'm almost over time, I know. That's probably my team like, dude, you're not paying attention right now at all. I get so excited to talk with you guys. But listen, it's really important for you to be clear about what you need to develop and your team. Like if you're not constantly saying, hey, in coming months, we're gonna have to take on this. Hey, I want you to step up into this role. Hey, would you try to do that? And people aren't sure of where they're going. They can't skill up. So you need to have those conversations with people where they're skilling up to do whatever they have to do, right? Whether that's just meaning for them, they're gonna ready for more, obligation, or ready for more responsibilities, or ready for something. It needs to be part of the conversation. That the simple questions of, do you know how to do that? And do you have everything you need? Could change your company's culture forever. I mean, remember, it's not the profundity of the question, it's the consistency of the conversation. Do you know how to do that? Do you have everything you need? Do you know how to do that? Do you have everything you need? These are not complex questions. It's that too many people don't ask them often enough. And now they're wondering why, their family seems off track. It's like, well, families fall off track because of lack of a consistent conversation about what matters. Isn't it true? Well, the same thing happens in teams. Teams fall off track because there's a lack of a consistent conversation about what really matters. Well, what really matters? Well, what really matters is, what are you trying to do? Do you have what you need? Are you passionate? Do you love this? How are we doing? These are not big questions, but I bet you watching this, and what I would encourage you to do, since you're watching this, is maybe after this session, just think of some questions you could ask your team on a more consistent basis. Just what could it be? And again, I don't care if it's informal, and I don't care if it's formal. Just do it more often, and things will change for you. As always, please go out there every single day. Know that with deep motivation and high performance habits, you can live an extraordinary life. So make that an intention for yourself this next month. An extraordinary life, my friend. That's what you are aiming for. Until I see you next time, go out there every single day and live fully, love openly, and make a difference today. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, it's Brendon. I just want to thank you for watching my channel. There's so many other teachings and trainings on this channel, so please enjoy. Thanks for being here. Also, for those who want to go to another level, I have an upcoming Certified High Performance Coach Certification Week. This is where I teach you and certify you to become a world-class life coach. We call them certified high performance coaches. You can click the link in the description right now to apply and to learn about our upcoming certification week. If you want to go to another level as a life coach and you want me to certify you and help you, make sure you click that link and take advantage of it right now. Enrollment is open today.